Dear Chairman Roy, Ranking Member Scanlon, and distinguished members of the committee, good morning and thank you for inviting me to testify before you. My name is Ammon Blair. I'm a senior fellow with the Texas Public Policy Foundation Secure and Sovereign Nation Initiative and a consultant for the Operation Lone Star Task Force. As Representative Roy stated, I previously served as a United States Border Patrol agent in the Rio Grande Valley sector and had more than 2 decades in the United States Army. The issue before this subcommittee is not whether Americans have the right to practice religion freely. They do unequivocally. The First Amendment protects belief, worship, religious instruction, peaceful association, and voluntary observance. Texas law does the same. However, religious liberty does not create immunity from the rule of law. A crime remains a crime regardless of religion, and no religious, ideological, or political system possesses a constitutional license to violate the rights of a sovereign nation, a sovereign state, a political subdivision, private property owners, or individual citizens. The constitutional issue before Congress is narrower but foundational. The American constitutional order recognizes dual sovereignty between the federal government and the states. It does not recognize parallel sovereign systems operating outside constitutional supremacy, judicial review, equal protection, due process, or the rule of law. The Supremacy Clause, Equal Protection, and Due Process Clauses in Article 4 guarantee one supreme constitutional order in one Republican form of government. No religious, ideological, political, or organizational system may exercise coercive civil authority independent of the Constitution while claiming immunity from constitutional accountability. This distinction between protected belief and regulable conduct is deeply rooted in American constitutional law. Under the 10th Amendment and longstanding police powers doctrine, states retain inherent sovereign authority and the ongoing duty to preserve public safety, territorial integrity, property rights, institutional order, and domestic tranquility. States were never meant to function as passive subdivisions, waiting federal permission before defending constitutional order. Texas stands at the center of this national security crisis. Federal strategic assessments, including the 2026 U.S. Counterterrorism Strategy and the ODNI's 2026 Annual Threat Assessment, identify cartels and Islamic terrorism as top homeland threats. These threats overlap and reinforce one another through hybrid and gray zone operations. Texas is confronting weaponized mass migration, cartel-engineered smuggling networks, foreign-linked governance structures operating within our communities, and systemic failure across the entire immigration enforcement and removal cycle. These dynamics have produced concentrated enclaves with limited assimilation and fragmented allegiances, environments actively exploited by foreign terrorist organizations, hostile states, and transnational criminal networks. Migration pipelines now function as operational infrastructure for coercion, illicit finance, transnational repression, and foreign influence. While all eyes are on conflict with Iran overseas, that conflict is not confined to distant battlefields. It is playing out right here on our shores. Iran has waged decades-long hybrid operations in Western Hemisphere and U.S. interior, leveraging proxies including Hezbollah, Hamas, and Muslim Brotherhood-linked networks alongside cartel smuggling infrastructure. These threat networks increasingly utilize gray zone tactics operating under the threshold of armed conflict inside the United States through cyber-enabled influence operations, propaganda ecosystems, and online radicalization platforms to accelerate recruitment, coordination, and institutional influence. These networks exploit migration corridors and distribute institutional ecosystems inside the United States. They operate through nonprofits, charities, educational institutions, advocacy groups, media ecosystems, and political conditions to pursue influence, concealment, and institutional entrenchment. These networks pursue the very civilization jihadist process of settlement outlined in the Muslim Brotherhood's 1991 explanatory memorandum. That document calls for gradual institutional entrenchment to eliminate, I say, quote, eliminate and destroy the Western civilization from within, end quote, by building parallel power structures inside American society. Mass migration at scale can create operational and demographic conditions that facilitate long-term institutional entrenchment when vetting, assimilation, and constitutional integration mechanisms erode. The constitutional concern is not private worship or voluntary religious practice. It arises where systems attempt to establish coercive adjudicatory structures, assert Sharia as superior civil law, obstruct access to American courts, and subordinate constitutional protectives to alternative governing authority. Texas is confronting this reality directly, exercising its sovereign authorities, including the governor's power as commander-in-chief. Governor Abbott has designated both the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE as foreign terrorist organizations and transnational criminal organizations. Governor Abbott has directed investigations into entities masquerading as legal courts staffed with judges issuing orders that purportedly carry authority to bind individuals to Islamic codes. The Constitution protects the broad sphere of religious liberty precisely because every person and institution within the United States ultimately remains accountable to one constitutional system, one civil sovereign, and one rule of law. No parallel system claiming supremacy over the Constitution can be permitted. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Blair.
Mr. Blair, I want to come to you for just a moment. During the 4 years of open border policies under the Biden administration, people from all around the world came into our country, frankly, without any vetting. We've seen that. The failure to secure our border provided those who seek to commit violent acts against the United States with a perfect opportunity to enter our nation undetected. And Mr. Blair, how did the Biden administration's open border policies impact the spread of political Islam in the United States?
We were mandated to look the other way under prosecutorial discretion. We released known terrorists. Well, we didn't know it until after the fact, but we had multiple people from all across the world coming into the United States with falsified documents, specifically from Iran, who'd come in with Venezuelan documents under the guise that we would not be able to identify them, which was the case. And that's why later on, Representative Gonzalez was able to, through a FOIA, find out how many on the non-disclosed docket of the criminal illegal aliens that we released there were. And I think there's a little over 600,000 of them that Border Patrol and ICE released during that time period.
And would you say there's security threats that grew during that period that we're still dealing with even today?
100%, sir. I mean, a lot of the information that was given to us as Border Patrol agents when we were on the ground was misinformation. And we didn't have that time, even to this day, be able to vet the information, whether that's going to be the sponsor, whether that's going to be the country of origin, even their age or their family status. We couldn't really vet any of that. And so now when ICE is trying to conduct operations or target operations, they have that bad information where they're going out city to city trying to find those that seek harm to our communities.
Thank you, sir.